Hey guys, so I wanted to come in and give you guys a little bit of a backstory of where I'm coming from as far as mental health goes. And I'm not on camera. It is 6 o'clock in the morning. I'm still having my coffee, so please excuse that. So if you want to just listen in this video, that's fine. So when I was about 17 years old, my friends at school discovered that I had been cutting myself. And I had already been self-harming for about 3 years before anybody found out. My guidance counselor was informed, and she called my mother into school. And I remember my guidance counselor saying she had had no prior experience as far as self-injury went, and that I was kind of her first case. So she was kind of learning a little bit from me. So anyway, my mom came into the school and spoke with the guidance counselor. And after that, I started to lose friends rapidly. I had a small group of very close-knit friends during that time, and it seemed almost like one by one they kind of dropped off. So that was a really difficult thing. It was a scary time. I didn't really know exactly what was happening to me, and I was kind of being alienated almost from the people that I trusted and needed the most at that time. Shortly after that, I had my first hospital stay, my first inpatient hospital stay. I had already had a psychiatrist once my mother found out about the self-harm, and that psychiatrist had diagnosed me with major depressive disorder, and he had put me on Prozac. So my first hospital stay, I stayed for about a week before my insurance ran out, and it was a very scary experience. If you have never been inpatient before, it's a scary experience the first time that you go, because you totally don't know what to expect. There's a lot of group therapy as well as one-on-one therapy and medication management, and it can be very intimidating. So I had my first hospital stay, and the next month I had a really bad manic episode, probably my worst manic episode to date. And I believe that the Prozac had something to do with it, because if you have bipolar disorder and you're only on an antidepressant, oftentimes it can put you into a manic state. So I had a really bad manic episode, and I ran away from home, and this was all during my senior year of high school. I ran away from home. I had this delusion that I had to get to California, and I'm in New Jersey. I don't know anybody in California. I've never been. But in my head, I really needed to get to California. So I ran away, and long story short, I ended up being picked up by the police and brought back to the station, where my mother picked me up, and I was put directly back into a different hospital. And I stayed there for about a week, and that is when they diagnosed me with bipolar disorder. And I already had a therapist and a psychiatrist on the outside. So coming out of inpatient, I had kind of a treatment plan ready to go as far as my outside doctors. The next month after that was spent in a partial hospitalization program, which was for the entire month. And basically what that is, it's a hospitalization program where you go early in the morning and you're there pretty much the whole day, and you go home in the evening or in the late afternoon. And that's why it's called partial hospitalization, because you're not staying there overnight. It's not full inpatient hospitalization. And since I was still in my senior year of high school, my school would send over homework and lessons for me to do while I was in the program. And partial hospitalization is often shortened to PHP. So if you ever hear that abbreviation, that is a partial hospitalization program. Sorry, there goes the car. So the next month after I was in the partial hospitalization program, I ended up back in an inpatient facility due to suicide letters that my mother had found. And at the time, I was not suicidal. I actually was writing those letters almost as a creative expression. But of course, they scared my mother, like any mother or parent would be scared if they found that in their child's journal. So I ended up back in inpatient and had my third and final inpatient stay. And this was all happening about 12, 13 years ago. So after I got out of the hospital that third time, I ended up going to live with my father for a little while. It didn't last very long, maybe a couple of months. And then I ended up back. No, I didn't end up back home, actually. From there, I moved in with my boyfriend at the time, and I lived with him and his family until it was time for him to go away to college, at which point I moved all the way up to northern Jersey to live with my aunt. While I was living with my aunt, I had a job, and I was going to college, and everything seemed like it was okay, but I was still self-harming. In the meantime, my doctors had diagnosed me not only with bipolar 1 disorder, but with schizotypal personality disorder, as well as borderline personality disorder. And I still didn't have a great idea of exactly what was going on in my head. So I stayed with my aunt for a few months while I was going to college, and then I ended up coming back to live with my mother. And after that is when I met my now husband, and I remember explaining to him a little bit about what was going on with me, and things like that, and about the self-harm, and he was very, very supportive of me, and he really, really stood by me from that point forward. So, to make a long story short, I vowed after my last hospital stay about 12 years ago that I would not go inpatient again. Over the next few years, I ended up in and out of different programs, including intensive outpatient programs, which are abbreviated to IOP, as well as a crisis diversion program, which is an alternative to being inpatient, and it's where different peer counselors and social workers stop by your house and make sure you get to all your appointments, and to kind of avoid a crisis situation. I've been to the emergency room several times due to panic attacks and anxiety, and to bring us up to date, because there's not really time to go over everything from the past 12 years. Let's just say I've been on a lot of different medications and a lot of different therapists and psychiatrists. right now, this year, I was in another intensive outpatient program, and I was in it from March until April, and then again from April until May. Excuse me. And it was really great. I learned a lot of really good coping skills, and I do believe that the program stopped me from having to go inpatient. And I was put on medication that seems to be helpful. And I've seen my regular psychiatrist and my regular therapist since I've been out of program, and they have adjusted my meds a bit. I was also given the diagnosis of OCD, which is obsessive compulsive disorder, as well as schizoaffective disorder. And schizoaffective disorder kind of takes the place of bipolar disorder, because what it basically is a mood disorder such as depression or bipolar, as well as schizophrenia. Because you can't be diagnosed with a mood disorder such as bipolar or depression and schizophrenia separately. So when symptoms of both things are going on, it becomes schizoaffective disorder. So that's basically where I am at right now. I'm still adjusting to the new medications that I've been put on over the past month, and I've been having some physical difficulties as well, which has made everything a little bit harder as well. So that's pretty much the beginning and the end of my story. There's a lot of things peppered in between there, but I'm not going to go into the entire story because it is long and tedious and not necessary. So I'm going to be doing videos explaining a little bit more about those different kinds of programs, as well as the different types of diagnoses, as well as coping mechanisms for different types of situations such as anxiety, stress, building relationships, anger, those types of things. So those are going to be future videos that I'm going to do. So I hope you guys enjoyed this. If you have any questions at all, please let me know. And I look forward to talking with you guys a little bit more about my journey and about hopefully things that are going to be helpful to you guys as far as coping skills and being able to relate as far as mental health. And I hope you guys have a beautiful rest of the day, and I will talk to you really soon. Bye.